Hey subscribers, welcome to a review of last week's battle, which was Battle 2 of Season 6 between the Adeptus the Adeptus Arbites versus Genestealer cults. So here we are at the deployment phase where I've done the introduction, I've taped that and I've got everything basically out on the board. We have the Genestealers on that side and the Adeptus Arbites on the other side. So we've got various units of Genestealers here, and we've basically got tanks lined up along the table edge there. We've got Patriarch on a throne, old school, leading the charge, and over this side we've got a couple of different sort of units. We've got Magus in a truck, and we've got a Genestealer gunner there ready to take down the police force essentially. So just to get a little recap on the battle, we've introduced a second character now. There'll be a video probably next week sort of following his line of the story. So he's our second character. Like I said, these are our characters along here that will be get their moat in the sun. Just forget about these two priests here, and there's a Jakara on the end, which was last week's special character. Trying to draw all these storylines in together. It'll make more sense as the season progresses. Moving across the Adeptus Arbites side, we've got some aircraft here and various units of foot troopers. We've got some rhinos full to the brim of SWAT force, I suppose you could call them. Mine's just kind of blank there, sorry. Over this side we've got a leader there with a cyber mastiff. So just trying to walk through what happened here. I haven't actually written this story part yet, but the idea here is there was a portal there that was kept open by one of those priests, and people coming out, because this world obviously doesn't have any resources, so all these resources, all these things like these supplies here were brought in from the other Periculo, which is from Season 5, through that portal, except as they came through, people were being tainted. They thought it was like chaos, and they were trying to quarantine everybody over this side of the board, just here, except they turned on their own kind, I suppose, and shot a unit of Adeptus Arbites. But they weren't actually chaos people, they were Genestealers. They basically infiltrated from the other planet. Sounds a little bit elaborate, I don't know how it's going to come off when I edit it, but that's what I'm trying to do. Anyway, that's the deployment. Season 6, Battle 2. We've got the first turn coming up shortly. Battle 2, Turn 1, here we go. We've had the Arbites have their first turn, and not much really happened. He just might start on this side of the table. We had this Storm Talon here take out a bunch of Genestealers that were just hanging out there in the open. Here we had a bunch of Arbites just come up close there, ready to take on the advancing Genestealers as they come around this corner. They'll open fire on them as they come in close. The Cyber Mastiff and the Commander standing behind in a safe position, again waiting for someone to show their faces. We had the Rhinos move into position behind this cover here, just behind this rock enclosure here, and it couldn't quite take out any Genestealers around that corner, but it's just sitting there ready to go. Likewise, these other Rhinos just moved into position. This unit just took some cover behind that Rhino because there's going to be some firing from various tanks there, so they've got some pretty good cover there at the moment. The HQ unit here, which I haven't got a name for this guy yet, but he's going to have some sort of name, I'm guessing, if he lasts the battle. They basically took a position here and fired into this group here, which took the most casualties. They took some more from these two guys here, these two tanks. And over this side we had combined fire from both aircraft and that unit of Arbites just there, just into these Genestealers. So they've probably done their job, the Genestealers, just soaking up some fire, leaving the tanks at the back ready to come forward. We'll wait and see what sort of damage these guys can do. There's a few heavy weapons and anti-aircraft batteries in there, so they should be able to do some damage. We'll wait and see. We've got the Genestealer's retaliation coming up shortly. Here we are at the end of the second half of turn 1, and we've had the Genestealer Cultists make their advance. Now this is only turn 1 here, and all those infiltrating Genestealers are basically right up the board, right in the face of these Adeptus Arbites. Not quite making it into hand-to-hand combat there, these guys, but they've just burst out from cover there, trying to get into melee range. We had some fire from these trucks here, trying to take down the Storm Talon here, and it's taken a few shots from a number of sources, those three tanks there, and didn't quite take it down. Injured, or wounded, damaged I should say, but not out. This group of cultists came from round here, just burst through there and came to that section there. The Broodlord and accompanying Genestealers didn't quite make it into combat there, so they're out in the open there, but pretty threatening for that group there. Over here we had the combined fire from all this basically take out a rhino that's there, spilled out its contents, and then it got assaulted by those Genestealers. So that was a good play. The final throw to kill that rhino was from this modified Lehman Russ here. So over here we had a shot from this unit here, try and take out that rhino there, but it didn't do it. And over this side of the board basically we had everyone just moving up, trying to take a closer position. Those Genestealers looking fairly threatening there, around there, but no action really on those units there. So that's really what we have at the end of turn 1. I've kind of had to change the viewing of the actual filming of this turn, and I've got the backdrop over that side and I've just come around this side, so hopefully that comes out alright this turn. Just it was so hard to actually get around this side of the table to move all these units, so took a different perspective. I'll have to edit that and see how it turns out. Anyway, turn 2 coming up shortly. Here we are at the start of turn 2. The Adeptus Arbites have really unloaded with their infantry. Let's move around the board and see what's happened here. We had this unit here just move off from the right there, move to the left, and fired into the group of Genestealers, which was quite a bit larger than that. We had some fire from the Storm Talon there, taking some more Genestealers out, and then the Rhino thought it would come in there and mow them down. It's full of Arbites as well, so those Genestealers are going to try and no doubt rip that thing open. We'll wait and see what happens there. Over this side of the board there was a giant stack of Genestealers here, which was ready to charge into these guys, but we had consolidated fire from 1, 2, 3 units there, which thinned those Genestealers down to that. This Rhino here unloaded its contents, which was this unit here, and it just, well, they weren't there, they were over there a second ago, but the Rhino went through that and tried to use it as tried to block that area, so those tanks really can't get through, so it's kind of using it as a bit of mobile cover there. No doubt it'll get blown to bits, but that's what it's there for. Moving over this side, we've had this unit here take a position on this little elevated area here and fired into the group of Genestealers here with a Broodlord there. it got assaulted again, raw ramming tactics by the Rhino, and we had this unit here come and fire and take out a tank on the other side for the Genestealers with combined fire from the other Storm Talent there. So that got taken out, and those hybrids there are sitting there. They were inside that tank. Over this side we had this unit here, which is on another elevated position, fire in and take out 4 Genestealers. Even though they're in an elevated position, those guys are hungry for some blood. They haven't gotten into combat yet, Genestealers, so they're going to look to try and rip them apart. And Storm Raven here took out 1 truck up the back there, so quite a few casualties for the Genestealers this side. We had all that as casualties, so it's only turn 2, so they'll be thinned out. But there's a lot of trucks on the other side, and there's a lot of heavy weapons, anti-aircraft weapons as well, so there's quite a bit on that side yet to come. Genestealers are about ready to start charging people, so there's going to be a bit of bloodshed. It's only turn 2, so they're about to start to thin out. Anyway, second half of turn 2 coming up shortly. End of turn 2. We've got the Genestealer Cults. They've made fair inroads into the Arbites lines. Let's move along the table. This is one of the most photographs I've taken in an actual battle. This one doesn't look like much, but took most of the day just to do half this turn. Let's just move around the table here. So we had these Genestealers here take out a Rhino that was there, spilling out this unit here. Those guys are fairly exposed now for the concentrated las fire and shotguns and different things. They're going to get carved up, I would say, but we do have the Patriarch hiding behind this staircase here, ready to do what they do. We had probably the play of the game for the Arbites side. We had a Rhino that was sitting right where that truck is, and it took the fire from all this, all that, took it out. It was just getting in the way. It really wasn't any threat, I suppose. It was just clogging up the area, so all these guys just concentrated fire taking it out. And I suppose at the same time a lot of these units over here were occupied by infantry units. We had this truck move from up that side, move up here. Looking at the infantry over here, this unit here was assaulted by Genestealers, still alive but looking pretty threatened. Moving over this side, the Broodlord and his group of Genestealers came in and took out this HQ unit here. Only 3 guys remaining. It's still, well, it's not really evenly balanced because we've got a nasty big Broodlord sitting in the middle. Here we saw some hybrids just sneak in amongst that cover there and try and shoot at that Rhino. Don't know why they just needed to take some cover. A lot of las fire's not really going to do a lot to that. Likewise over here there was a melter weapon in there, and it still didn't take it out. So there's a Rhino full of Arbites troopers. Those guys are actually, I believe, they've got shock mauls or power mauls, whatever they're called. So they'll come out, no doubt, crack some scones. Over this side we had combined firepower from the 2 trucks here, and Wyvern, is it? I think it's a Wyvern. Took out a Storm Talon that was sitting here, so that opens that up quite a bit. Over this side we had a dude with Gelignite strapped to his guts, just run across the board, ready to, I don't know what he's going to do, just explode himself in a key moment. And the Genestealers here assaulted this position and almost took out the whole unit, but you know, there's a little bit left to go. In the 8th edition, I suppose now these guys can just walk away just about and not shoot back, but at least not get carved up. Live to fight another day. Anyway, that is the end of turn 2. A lot of casualties there. We've got turn 3 coming up shortly. This is the start of turn 3, and we've seen the Imperial forces do very well. We've seen where once were Genestealers all through here. There was a Broodlord there. All these units are clear now, and the Adeptus Arbites have controlled that middle area. So we had this tank here, that Rhino. It spilled out these guys with power mauls. Came in and basically reinforced these guys here, both those units, and took out the Broodlord and a couple of Genestealers. The tank just kept careering down that way, took out a few Genestealers on the way, and seems to be a fair old tactic there from the Adeptus Arbites. Over here we've seen these guys were in combat with the Genestealers there and wisely chose to scale that cliff there and run for their lives. Over here we had the Storm Raven take out one of the tanks that were there, and moving over this side of the board, Storm Talon there took out a truck that was sitting next to that structure in the middle there. And over this side, combined firepower from these two units cut a whole heap of Genestealers down, so Genestealers look like they're falling away on this side of the board. But if they can get into hand-to-hand combat with one of these units, maybe they can sort of clear some out. And there's an awful lot of heavy firepower at the back there, which should do some damage to some of these infantry units. So that's what we have. That's the first half of turn 3. We'll see what happens in the second half. Okay, here we go, second half of turn 3, and the Genestealers have, look, they didn't do as well as they should have done. These guys here tried to take out the Storm Raven, but didn't really do it. The combined fire of those two tanks there and this unit here took out the Rhino that was just getting in the way really. They really shouldn't be focusing on those, but they did nonetheless. Over here we had some assaulting going on from hybrids into the Adeptus Arbites with power mauls. Over this side the Genestealers finally caught up with the fleeing unit that was decimated, so they now have been wiped out. Over this side we had this tank here take out the commander for the Adeptus Arbites. This tank here tried to take out the Storm Talon, didn't do that. We had some Chimera fire there from the multi-laser. Took out a couple of guys that were in the commander's HQ unit. Moving around this side, we had the Patriarch and the Aberrations and some Genestealers come and assault this group here. Almost wiped it out. They took a few casualties as well, but that battle is ongoing. So that's the end of turn 3. We've lost a lot of units on the board. So we've got turn 4 coming up shortly. Right, turn 4. First half of turn 4, we've had a lot of Genestealer casualties here. 1 tank, 2 tanks, whole heap of Genestealers, couple of Adeptus Arbites. Let's look at the board. We saw the Storm Raven basically drop off some Arbites there who assisted taking out the squad of Genestealers. The Genestealers got fired upon by that group and this one here, so they took them out. The Storm Raven is basically over there now. Anyway, moving over here, we've got combat between these Arbites and the Genestealer hybrids there. These guys with their power mauls just completely decimated their squad, so they've got the upper hand on that. Over this side we had the firepower from those 3 guys just try and take out that tank there to no effect. Over this side in this building, these guys helped take down one of those tanks over there. Which one was it? It was that one. Yep, it was that one. And it had firepower from the Storm Talon from the side here. That's right. That fired in there and took it out, and these guys here now in heavy cover, took it out as well. Over this side of the board we had this unit here was in combat with these guys, and under the new rules they just withdrew out of that, opening them up to be fired upon by that group there, taking out all the Genestealers, and now we've only got a few remaining, but one of them is the Patriarch, so should be able to cause some damage theoretically. So we'll wait and see what they're going to do next. Alright, well that's a good turn for the Adeptus Arbites, but there's still some heavy firepower on the Genestealer side. We'll wait and see what they can do. Second half of turn 4 coming up shortly. Okay, turn 4, and the Genestealer cults have taken quite a few casualties. That's what we've had this turn. All those Adeptus Arbites, we've had the Storm Raven go down, and on the Genestealer side we've had 2 casualties. Give you a quick look at the board. We had the fire from the Lehman Russ, those 2 tanks just there, had a crack at the Storm Raven that was there, didn't take it down, but then it was fired up with some fire just here, and that was what did the trick. These guys here, there's 2 Genestealer hybrids there, were in combat with a group that was just there. They ran back into the cover of that little structure there. This group here fired into that group, took out 3, the Chimera and the Lehman Russ, took out the rest. We've still got a few units of the Custodes, the Arbites left. 1, 2, and there's a few there. Oh, that's right. Over here we had the Patriarch and 2 Aberrants charge into combat here. They took out a whole heap, but the Patriarch is now in a bit of trouble, wounded, and can get assaulted from a number of different options on the board. That's really what we've got. I suppose the Arbites have the numbers, but we've still got a fair bit of armour on the Genestealer side, and they're going to take a fair bit to crack open given the strength of a lot of the weapons on the Arbites side. So we'll wait and see what happens next. We're into turn 5, so it's almost over. We'll see what happens next. Here we are at the end of the first half of turn 5, and there's been quite a few casualties on the Genestealer side. These Arbites came down from this elevated position here, ran down past that pillar, came here and smack, blew up a tank. Moving across this side, we had combined firepower from 1, 2, 3 units, take out another one that was just there. Over here, this unit broke from combat, allowing these guys here and the Storm Talon to fire upon the Patriarch, taking it out. So the Adeptus Arbites hold that side. Probably got a few models, in the middle of the board. Sorry about the focus there. And they control over here too. So overall it looks like they've got the upper hand, but you've got to remember there's a Chimera there which has got these guys inside it, so they're going to come bursting out. There's a Lehman Russ up the back and another squad of cultists and a couple of dudes in there, so they can take out that Storm Talon. Then we've really just got a whole heap of infantry, and that thing there, the Lehman Russ, can do a lot of damage. Anyway, we've only got 2 turns to go. Well, it's the second half of turn 5 coming up shortly, and then actually there's only turn 6 after that, so we'll wait and see what can happen after the break. Just a sec. Here we are at the end of turn 5, only 1 turn to go, and the Genestealers have taken a large chunk out of the Adeptus Arbites. So what we saw here is we saw a bunch of cultists come pouring out of that Chimera there and fired into this group. That group was 10 strong before. It also took fire from these guys over here, and there was 2 hybrids that were hiding in this section here, and they rushed out and tried to finish them off, ended up killing themselves. But that's what cultists do, so good job there. So here we've got Adeptus Arbites on that side controlling that. They control the centre. A few guys there, but there's still all this armour up the back here. There's only one turn to go, and these guys, especially this Leman Russ, can cause a lot of damage. So it actually, in this turn, it actually shot into this group here and took out five units, 5 models. So that was good work there. So the Genestealer Cultists have really got a strong position in the middle with lots of armour. There's only one turn to go, and if they do some damage in the final phase, final turn, they could end up with a win. But anyway, we'll find out what happens next. Turn 6 coming up. Here we are at the end of the first half of turn 6, and we've seen the Adeptus Arbites basically consolidate on their side of the board. They've got no armour left. They're trying to do as much damage as possible. Over here we had this group here, couldn't do anything. They were way over here. They just basically ran behind this building here. Really not going to take any more part in this game. This unit here fired and took out a cultist over there. These two guys here, tucked behind this rocky area here, ended up taking one as well. These guys fired and took one out, and there's a fair few. I'll try and get a look at these Arbites with rocket launchers. There's one at the front there, you've probably seen, and there's only the one rocket launcher in there. Ended up taking out the Chimera. It was there, so that's probably a good outcome there. Not so good over this side of the board. We've seen this unit here come up behind this rocky area here and try and do some damage to the Leman Russ, but it's way too strong, so that holds out. So at this stage, look, they're probably even on model numbers, but we've got a lot of armour on the cultist side still left. The Leman Russ is going to do a lot of damage, and there's a few melter weapons in those cultist groups there. So looking a bit 50-50 at the moment, but my money's on the Genestealers. We'll wait and see what they can do in the second half of turn 6. Well, here we are at the end of the battle, end of turn 6, and normally I would have done a quick flyover of the scene, the final positions, but I actually started doing the final wrap up with the storyline, so some of the models aren't in their proper places. But what we had is we had a big group of Arbites sitting on that, and it got fired upon by the Leman Russ and the other tank there. It also got fired upon by cultists. There were some Arbites hiding behind this area here. They got assaulted, and these guys here are basically, they were over here, but I've moved them up here because the storyline goes thinking that the cultists have obviously won. And then demons start to step in, cause some mayhem. Genestealers slink off, and also one of our main characters there, Sergeant Jethro Gibson, is going to take off, and that'll get picked up in next week's video. Next week's video is going to be just a storyline around Jethro there. And I'm basically going to try and link up all the characters here eventually. So I've done the Don there, there's Jethro. Following week is going to be, well, I'm not actually going to tell you what that's going to be. It's going to be a couple of these models here, and then we'll get into some larger battles again. Alright, that's the end of turn 6, and we have a Genestealer victory. Thanks for watching, see you next week.